Music, it can do a lot. It can speak to you, make you feel. And now I hope it can do one more thing. I hope it can help stop the violence. The Stop the Violence Face the Music Society is dedicated to ending the violence kids face every day, on the streets and in schools, even at home. It gives kids choices other than violence to solve their problems. And it educates parents to help stop abuse. If you need help or just want more information, please call the number below.
What is your message? I know you're writing from Orlando and now you're here in North Carolina. What is your message to the people out there?
We're trying to reach out to parents and children about adolescent substance abuse, teach parents how to talk to the children about drugs and what are the signs and symptoms of drug abuse. And essentially, we're here to prevent drug abuse and give some families some very basic information, very practical information about drug prevention.
But if someone willing to take off of their job and go on a bicycle tour, some kind of tour across the country just to let people know some safety tips about your children, you should be concerned. And I think it would have helped this community for the people that come out, and I think we learned something and we can pass it on.
What is your name? How do you feel about teen drug use? What do you do when you find drugs on somebody? Do you have any suggestions for kids that should not be using drugs and how to say no to drugs? Our communities are undergoing many changes. One of the most frightening is the spread of drug and alcohol abuse amongst our youth. And it's not just here in the inner cities, but also here in rural neighborhoods across the country. Teens today are not just smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol. They're using drugs like crack cocaine, powder cocaine, heroin, Special K, ecstasy. Some of them are even inhaling substances like butane, propane, metallic spray paint, and even whiteout. Times have changed. There's a program that's very popular. It's called Say No to Drugs. You gotta say no and walk away.
A simple no. If you stay around, if your friends are doing something that you know you don't approve of, and it's something that you really don't want to participate in, the best thing I could tell you is to say no and leave.
Because really, it'll be your low self-esteem that pulls you in. You know, if that person is leading you, then you're gonna follow. Just try not to be the follower, you know, be your own person, be a leader. And if they say, here, you wanna smoke a joint? Be like, no, man, I don't do that, I'm not into that. You know, I lift weights, or I run, or I play sports, or something like that. Or I'm good at school, you know? I don't wanna screw up my brain.
Surround yourself with people who generally care about you and are motivated, and people who are going somewhere, have some goals and some direction, and want to see you do the same thing.
Something's wrong when somebody gives you a drug. They don't like it. You can't use the guy that, oh, that's my best buddy, he's gonna look out for me. How's he gonna look out for you when you overdose? You know, he's gonna carry you to the emergency room? Wrong. Something's fundamentally wrong with that kind of thinking. If they give you drugs, that's like punching you, beating you, or doing anything else to you.
The best thing to do is not put yourself in that situation, you know? And if you get in that situation, try to just walk away, or just give a good reason that you're gonna feel confident in yourself that you don't really want to do that drug. And if they gonna be your friend, they're gonna respect you for that, you know? And if they ain't your friend, they gonna respect you. That's where you know when you got friends and you don't have friends.
After you say no and you walk away, I think it's time that you start considering your friends, because if anybody that was going to tell you to do anything to harm yourself or take you anywhere that's going to get you in trouble, obviously they're truly not your friends and they don't care about you.
Just for me, what worked for me is just to stay away from those people.
You can just say no, and I know it's difficult, but if you have your mind set on what you want to do, then it's not going to be difficult.
But if you see a joint being passed around in the room, just leave. You don't have to say no to drugs. Just leave. Just don't be there any longer. Now, if someone's trying to get you to do something, follow the 30-second rule, which is if they continue to ask you to do something, you leave. That's it. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay. So we covered a couple things on how to say no to drugs, and that is, number one, don't set yourself up. Number two, leave. If within 30 seconds, if they want you to do something, and if you're still sticking around.
I just got out of jail 2 weeks ago.
For what?
For drug and alcohol.
Were you selling?
Yeah.
What did you sell?
Coke.
And who would you sell it to?
Anybody. I didn't have no preferred customers. Anybody who come, I sell it to.
Were they white, Latino, African American?
Like I said, everybody. I didn't have no discriminations against no race or color. I just sell it to anybody. Did I care how old they were? No.
Did you sell it to kids?
Not to kids, but I figure, I sold it to their mother and stuff, so that's like taking their food away from their mouth. Because the streets are bad. I leave them.
Okay, description again on our suspects are 2 WMAs, one with the blue button-up work shirt with a name patch sewn on the front of it. One of them has got a white t-shirt on. The guy with the blue shirt has blonde hair. The guy with the white t-shirt has darker hair, cut fairly short.
All right. Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, you guys have a beautiful day.
Hey, can we, hey,
You gonna be around
how many,
later?
2 times? Can we use this or once?
What's that?
This.
Huh?
Is this enough for both of us?
Yeah, it's plenty. Trust me. You don't want to be too amped out because then, you know, it'll be, what do you want to do? Stay up all night or just for a couple hours?
We're
Just have a party, have a good time.
That'll be plenty.
I want to party with him. He wants to party with me and stuff. And
I got a little bud. You guys smoke bud? Are you guys all right with that?
120.
Yeah.
Try this.
Hey.
Right on.
are you usually in the area? In case it's good stuff. It's good stuff, man. We can come back and get more.
Yeah. Speed. All right.
Just pass by if you see me out here, all right?
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot.
You guys take care.
Okay, you got it. Okay, we're talking.
We copy. We're taken down.
Okay, it was the LMA wearing the white t-shirt, blue jean shorts, white socks up to his knees, and white tennis shoes.
You better stop! Stop, please! Back there in front of the car. Back there in front of the car. In front of the car, Mike! Car right there! On the side! Stay down. Spit it out! Right now! Spit it out! All of it! All right, right now! All right, look, kid, I'm sorry, man. I've been through too much. Look, all right, look. All right. Stop. You're under arrest. All right. You're under arrest. What the f*** is all for, man? What do you think? You're selling dope. When's this gonna end, man? Hey, you dropped something. Yeah, I saw him throw it too. Yeah, we got it. The big bag of dope.
Worked really great with having the bikes out there to come up on these people. You know, they did a great job of moving in fast, targeting the people, grabbing them, getting the dope before they could swallow it. It was also really nice that we didn't have to burn the officers, the UC officers, but having them come back around and make identifications and the rest of the people. You know, we got a substantial amount of meth and marijuana down there.
I started using alcohol at the age of 9. You know, it's basically experimental use. It wasn't like an everyday thing until I hit about the age of 10. I started drinking every day. So I drank then until I hit the age of 11 when I started using marijuana. At the age of 13, I continued to use both drugs, both alcohol and marijuana to the age of 13. Then I got involved with crack cocaine. Once I got involved in crack cocaine, that's when a lot of the charges and crime and the trouble that I got into began. I used crack cocaine to the ages of 15 and 16. Then I got involved in heroin. I started using heroin real bad, and that just led all the way to my time of incarceration now. But it always starts with something experimental, like just a sip of beer or a drag of a joint, you know? People don't know, but that's the beginning.
I started using drugs when I was approximately 13 years old. I started out early on with alcohol, just experimenting, having a good time, you know, hanging out with my friends and just partying. Slowly but surely, it led me to experiment with marijuana, started experimenting with LSD, never really seeing it as a problem. By the time I was 17, I was sticking a needle in my arm, and I knew that, that I would never have done that had I not been under the influence of alcohol. But while I was under the influence, I wasn't able to make good decisions in my life. You know, when I was under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of marijuana, I wasn't able to make good decisions. Therefore, I started to engage in behaviors like having unprotected sex.
The drug does get you, but what usually happens is what you do while you're high will get you before the drug gets you. Because you're more apt to get high, to have sex, than to catch a sexually transmitted disease.
because I was one of those kids at 13, 14, 15 thinking the bad things were never going to happen to me. By the time I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed HIV positive, and I was devastated. You know, I'll never know what it's like to have children. I've always wanted to have children. And I'll never know what that feeling is like to be able to raise a family and have a family. And, you know, so there's a lot of great losses from the moment I picked up that alcohol.
The biggest thing they need to be aware of is the consequences that ultimately they experience: jails, institutions, and death. And for the experiences that I've had, the majority of them have ended up in one or the other. I've been to numerous funerals. I've been to numerous prisons. The consequences are, in most cases, more than they were willing to pay.
You have a lot of things that happen in prison. You know, you can become injured in prison due to fights. You have all kinds of things in prison that aren't good for you. But the worst thing about prison in a whole is the lack of freedom. The lack of being able to make certain decisions or choices. Not being able to get up in the morning and decide what kind of clothes you want to wear, or when you want to go to sleep, or take a shower, or eat. The choices that, you know, a lot of people take for granted in life. You never know what you have until it's gone. That's a very true saying, because you never know how much your freedom means to you until it's taken away.
I think, you know, it's not fun to go to jail either, and that really sucks too. I mean, there's a lot of people who want to take advantage of you. All it is thieves, murderers, rapists, you know, it's all criminals when you're in jail, and that's where you live.
Martial arts, even if you have a black belt, you can't necessarily beat everyone up, but you are taught not to fear. You're not afraid of other people that may pick on you. You're not afraid to say no. You believe, stand up for yourself. You have that kind of courage.
We don't only talk about discouraging drugs. We talk about many different things, including violence prevention.
We have some rules, which are tenets, we call them in Taekwondo, which is honor, courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, courage, and community.
The benefit of learning Taekwondo to the youth is really teaching them a lot of courtesy, respect, and discipline. It's very important that when you go through life that, you know, you have strong basics, and, you know, kicks and punches are important to keep a healthy body, but teaching a lot of courtesy and respect, those are the things that are going to carry them forward in life and give them the confidence to say no to drugs or to say no to violence or other different things that they get involved in.
Every kid is a winner, every kid is special. And so every child that comes in here, they know they're not compared to another child. They know that we're looking at themselves, and so they learn to look internally. In other words, they don't compare themselves to little Johnny next to them. I don't have as nice clothes as little Johnny, or little Johnny smoking pot, maybe I should do the same thing to look cool. They're confident within themselves of who they are, and that's what they're confident in. They don't have to have acceptance of other people.
Something for somebody to go need some sort of stimulus, you know, something's missing in their life, and they need to be filling up with friendship, fill up with positive things and then negative things. It's important that we talk to those people and know that they have that support outside the group, and they don't have to rely on other friends and people outside a positive group. They got to know that there's other things out there than just the negative group.
One big thing with gymnastics, it teaches you a lot of pride. I mean, you learn how to have pride in your body and to be healthy, and you know, you take pride into being healthy, and you consider yourself important.
If you chose to partake in drug use or to drink or smoke, well, you just wouldn't be able to do gymnastics. You wouldn't have the physical stamina to do it. You couldn't. Gymnastics is so physically demanding, and there's so much self-discipline and self-control that the discipline alone discourages you from doing anything like that.
They have choices, and we also teach them that with every choice comes a consequence. So with the choice of not doing drugs, they might have the consequence of somebody that's offering it to them saying, oh, well, you're not cool, but inside they know that they're still cool. They have a place to be cool, and that's our gym.
Yeah.
It's always not my child. We see what we want to see.
It just comes along and smacks you in the face sometimes.
My God, they never said anything to me.
I think the dangerous aspect of everything is that we think it's a phase. You know, and sure enough, some children will probably maybe smoke marijuana a couple times and be done with it. But there are other children, like my son, who will graduate to much bigger and better things. You know it's happening. You think, well, he's hurting himself, he's hurting our family. But once it got to the point where he was going to start selling, I knew there'd be other children involved, other teens, other parents would be feeling the way I do. That was it. You can't ignore $3,000 worth of marijuana that's all rolled and ready to go. And the right thing for my son at that point was to turn him over to the authorities. Don't help your child become a drug addict or a drug dealer. It's basically what Carol O'Connor says on TV. Do whatever you can to get between your kids and drugs.
This is Hugh. This is my son. He started on drugs when he was 16. When his life became confused, unreal, filled with horrifying hallucinations, he ended his life. Get between your kids and drugs any way you can if you want to save the kid's life.
It's not a phase. By the time you suspect something, it's probably been going on quite a while. I mean, just don't. For the sake of your child's future, and for the sake of your sanity, you just can't ignore some of the signs. I don't even know if he's forgiven me yet today, but to tell you the truth, I don't care.
He will.
He will.
I look at him and I think, boy, by now, if we hadn't had this intervention, God knows what you'd be doing. Maybe you wouldn't even be alive. And I don't look for his forgiveness. I don't, like I said, it doesn't matter.
I think parents usually the last to know, but then on the other hand, a lot of times I think they see the signs, or they recognize the signs, but they don't want to admit it. They have a hard time accepting.
I used to manipulate my mother by, every time I was around her, I would talk the positive talk, but when I was away from her, I would walk the negative walk, But like I said, being as though my mother was never wanted to see any wrong in me, it was easier for me to do that.
I was around 12 or 13 when I started smoking marijuana. She had that trust in me because, I've never done anything like that before. But towards like the middle of my usage, she knew. I'll say it was like maybe 6 months until she knew.
There's something in the field that we call denial. People who are habituated, dependent, or addicted to drugs have denial, where they'll say, I can quit anytime I want. Well, parents also engage in a state of denial. Which do you think is going to be more painful and embarrassing, losing a child to drugs and alcohol or asking for help? If you ignore the problem or you do not admit to the problem just gets worse. And yes, it may be embarrassing to acknowledge and admit that your child has a substance abuse problem or an addiction, but it's going to be a lot worse if the consequences pile up to the point where they hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. So what I would encourage you to do is to ask for help, talk to family members, talk to clergy people, talk to school personnel, talk to, if they're on probation or parole officers, talk to drug and alcohol counselors, but seek help.
Practically every young man or woman that I've ever talked to said the same thing. You know, I've been getting high for about a year or two, even before my parents had a clue. Now let me ask you this. How is it possible that your son or daughter that lives in the same household as yourself gets high on marijuana or drinks a great deal of alcohol or is huffing butane gas and we don't know about it? How is that possible?
I don't think my mother had a clue that my drug usage and drug abuse was so terrible and so heavy. I don't know if I don't believe she was in denial. I just really think that I hid it very well because I was a good student. You know, parents have these things where, well, maybe if my kid's not going to school or maybe if my kid's not having good grades or whatever. I was one of those children, you know, one of those kids that I kept going to school. I mean, I missed a lot of days, but I kept my grades up and I had this facade of that everything was okay. And, you know, my life didn't come crashing down around me until I almost died, like I said, of a drug overdose.
How did you hide it? What kinds of things would you do to hide the fact that you were getting high, besides the grades?
Well, I would, besides what?
Besides the grades.
Well, I would just make sure that whatever I was supposed to do, I did pretty much. You know, I didn't stay out. I mean, I would sneak out, but my mother wouldn't know it. I was just really, I got really good at being sneaky. And then I was hiding the needle marks by doing it like where I wore my watch. I would use a vein where I made sure that things could hide it, clothing, jewelry, so things like that. So I would hide my track marks and just, you know, was very good at hiding it and still looking good.
The way I hid it from everybody else was by trying to constantly do the things that I normally did. You can only hide it but so much, but what I did was, like I said, I tried to maintain my regular routine.
When people smoke marijuana excessively, abusively, and addictively, and a lot of people do not consider marijuana addicting, I work with people who acknowledge that they're addicted to marijuana. It attaches to fat cells in the brain, and it can cause a condition called amotivational syndrome. Amotivational syndrome is where the person's short-term memory is affected. They don't remember things. Hence, when adolescents go to school and they smoke marijuana before school, they smoke marijuana in school, they're unable to retain information. Their coordination's off, their reflexes are off, they're apathetic, they're lethargic, they're fatigued. And you put all that together, you have someone who basically is not interested in life.
I guess the first thing I did was become real detached from everybody. Wouldn't really share or talk to my parents, and I had a really bad attitude all the time. Like, if you're not high, you have the worst attitude until you get high again, and then when you come down, it's even worse than it was before. So I had a really bad attitude, spent a lot of time in my room. My appearance changed drastically from when I wasn't high, especially physically, as far as how much I weighed, circles under my eyes, like really, really dark circles under my eyes. Their attitude, their appearance, and the people they hang out with. If certain friends seem to go away, friends that they were really close with, and other friends that you haven't heard of replace them. Phone calls, a lot of phone calls. People who are dealing usually get 20 phone calls an hour. And they get phone calls, all their phone rings off the hook. People who won't leave their name, people whose names are calling your house and you don't know who they are. And unwilling to do anything. They don't want to do anything but hang out. They want to go out with their friends. They don't want to play sports necessarily. They don't want to do anything active, especially active. Anything productive, that's it. They just want to hang out. They come home. They go to sleep, they wake up the next day and they go through the same routine.
I lost a lot of friends. My decisions, my attitudes, they just got so mixed up. I stopped listening to people. I stopped caring about who I had to hurt or what I had to do to get the money and the drugs. You only see one thing and you only think one thing, and that's drugs. But your whole lifestyle changes, you know? You're no longer the Chris or the person you used to be. You're somebody just living for drugs and alcohol.
When you talk about any substance, and you talk about a commitment or investment to the substance, you'll start seeing a person whose interests in life, whether it was sports, school, hobbies, start to fall off. And they become committed and invested to that drug and the lifestyle of that drug. So you start to see their associations with friends change. They pick up new drug-using associates. You'll start to see sometimes weight issues. Sometimes they will gain weight. They particularly might gain weight with marijuana because marijuana, THC, affects the appetite center of the brain, and in the marijuana world they call it munchies, getting the munchies, and they eat a lot. With other drugs such as coke, methamphetamine, LSD, that reduces the appetite so they lose weight. You'll start to see an attitude change, and that goes with any kind of addiction, including marijuana. You'll see somebody who basically had a nice attitude. Drugs do not stay in the body, so as they come down and they crash, you're going to see irritability, negative attitude. You'll see basically people either not care for marijuana or they have a chip on their shoulders. Once they have a chip in their shoulders, they will start finding fault with people in the house, with relationships. They might become explosive when they're not high, argumentative, and basically they're just very, very negative.
It was kind of like he just got burned out, he's just tired, lazy, totally unmotivated.
When they start to lose interest in some of the sports activities that they've usually been involved with, when they start hanging with friends that they haven't normally hung around with and getting into maybe some trouble, when the kids get to the point that they don't want you to know where they're going and they're trying to give you explanations of how they're spending their money, or they don't want you to know how they're spending their money, at that point there's an issue. But the larger point really is that if a parent's involved in their child's life on a day-to-day basis, they'll be aware very early on when these changes start to take place.
Well, to me, the parents should definitely be worried. Like some of the signs might be, you know, your child coming in later and later all the time. Your child wanting to be out there in the streets more and more. A lot of times, you know, drug use and drug dealing go hand in hand. So, you know, if they come up with money out of the clear blue, you know they might be doing something wrong to get that money. So that might be something you might want to watch out for. Everybody knows like the red eyes, the munchies and stuff like that. But basically, like when kids start smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that, they stop caring about a lot of stuff. So, you know, if your child used to listen to what you told them, and now they're saying, man, just go ahead. Like they don't even want to hear you, you know, something might be up. If they used to be in the school every day and stuff like that, and now they just don't even care, school just another thing hassling them, you know, something might be up.
What parents might see the morning after smoking marijuana, or for that matter, any substance, is fatigue. They might see not only fatigue, they might see somebody sleep a lot, and that's a good point to intervene.
Parents, actually, I think they should make the kids aware of drugs as soon as possible. When I say that, kids should be aware of what's going on outside the house around them as early as kindergarten, as far as like what's going on with drugs, this, that, and the other thing.
Nowadays, there's no need of hiding the fact about drugs are here. Everybody knows it. Matter of factly, the kids know it before the families or before the parents. So there's no need of being hush-mouthed about that sort of thing. If you have any doubt or you have an inkling that that's what's going on with your children, I think you should openly discuss it as a family.
Try to be as honest and open with your kids as you can be, because, you know, if your kids feel like they can't talk to you, they never will, and they'll go out there and they'll make a real big mistake, and, you know, sometimes they might not live to correct that mistake.
Because it can happen quick. You know, all it takes is your kid at a party who he's real good friends with or someone he admires a lot, to break out of line or to pass them a joint.
Most kids get involved just to be involved with other kids, just to become popular.
Friends definitely have an influence. Who you're hanging out with is you're going to do what they're going to do, or you wouldn't be with them in the first place.
Because the way I look at it, a lot of people that I know that are going in that direction, they don't have an adult, a parent there to stand behind them and guide them in the right direction.
I feel no matter how hard a set of parents or a parent works, they've got to find time. Their children, whether they recognize it or not, are their most important asset, not the house. I know they got to keep a roof over the family's head, but not the house fixing. Their children are their most important asset. Based upon that, I see it very easily to find the time to do that, whether it be at 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. If you don't, they're going to be doing other things at 11 o'clock at night and 1 a.m. in the morning.
That time has to be quality. When the child comes home, you've got to initiate conversation and try and encourage the child to feel comfortable with the parents, that they can, if they have a problem, they can talk.
Kids are a lot wiser than I think we give them credit for, and I think we need to be very frank with them and give them as much information as we can, and where parents are concerned, I think it's really important that they address the concerns in a very assertive manner to make the kids understand that their involvement with drugs, as sometimes the kids know better than the parents, is leading them into very promiscuous behaviors that at times they don't really give consideration to the consequences.
It's not who you are, it's what you do that gets you HIV positive, that gets you drug and alcohol addicted, and that parents really need to talk to their kids. You know, because if it doesn't start at home, where's it going to start? I used to think that, because I didn't live over in that side of the town or because of the color of my skin, that I was safe, But it's really, I didn't realize that it's what you do. I just think it's really important that parents continue to have the dialogue with children about drugs and alcohol and the consequences.
These are tobacco rolling papers. This is typically the way they make marijuana cigarettes. Marijuana cigarettes are called joints. They'll take two papers like this, and they're gummed. You would put the marijuana in here, this way, roll it up this way. This is what a marijuana cigarette or joint would look like. Once they smoke this, okay, and this is the way you smoke marijuana. When you smoke a cigarette, you go. When you smoke marijuana, you go. And you hold it. Now, there are some drug experts, because marijuana produces 50% more tar than tobacco, say that when you smoke one marijuana cigarette, because it produces 50% more tar, because of the way you smoke it, that you're putting anywhere between 10 and 20 cigarettes regarding tar into your lungs. This is a marijuana cigarette. Now, as you smoke this down, this is what a roach would look like. And it's very hard to smoke. And that's where the roach holder comes in, like this. Smoke like this. That's how it would look. Aluminum foil is very big in the drug world. They package drugs in aluminum foil. They also make pipes out of it like this. This is a blunt cigar. This is extremely, extremely, extremely popular now. People use this to make joints out of. Okay, but instead of this paper burns wild and quick. Blunt paper burns slow and it burns even. So there's two ways to make a blunt. The first way is that you take your thumbnail or an instrument and you cut it down. And then what you're doing, this is a cracked open blunt. And what you're doing is you're going to take out all the cigar shavings, let it fall out, and you're going to be left with the blunt paper. Then typically they will stick a usually a $10 bag of marijuana into the blunt, they lick it, and then they heat seal it with a lighter. Now the reason they smoke blunts is because this joint burns wild and it burns quick. This blunt burns slow and it burns even. This is a store-bought bong. This is tubing. This is tubing. You put this over a bottle such as this. There's a hole in the back. That is your carburetor. This is your stem. You put water over this tubing, about that much. Put your marijuana in here. You hold your finger over here. You spark it up. Okay, that's a bong hit. Unfortunately, many places in the United States are now experiencing adolescents using heroin. Adolescents feel that cocaine, crack, methamphetamine are very, very dangerous drugs, but they feel that heroin is not a dangerous drug. So today, many adolescents are now starting to snort heroin. A few are smoking heroin, and a few are injecting heroin. It doesn't matter what drug, whether it's heroin, coke, crack, whatever. You become addicted. Heroin is one of the drugs that you can become addicted to very, very quickly. The signs and symptoms of somebody using heroin in the early stages, it might give them a sense of confidence. They become more assertive. As a matter of fact, they could even speed them up. They can move around quickly. As they become habituated to heroin, they're going to need more and more heroin, which means that they're going to use more and more bags. As they do that, heroin is a narcotic, so it depresses the central nervous system, so they will look like they're asleep, which is called the nod. And what they're feeling is a sense of euphoria, a sense of well-being. They have no worries, no anxieties. They feel very, 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 very good. And sometimes you'll see them like this. And they're scratching because heroin makes the brain release histamines into the blood, and histamines make them scratch. Sometimes when they're in the nod, you'll see them salivate like this. So they'll have saliva coming out of their mouth and they'll be like this. As they go there, they're using more and more bags or more heroin, so the heroin's not lasting as long, which means that they will start to go into withdrawal after a couple hours. The withdrawal signs that you will see is a runny nose, the eyes will become glassy, then the eyes will start to tear, then they will start to sweat, they will start to have bad stomach cramps. The stomach cramps over time will get very, very bad. They will start to have diarrhea, and they will start to basically have a very, very bad case of the flu. A bad heroin addiction withdrawal will last anywhere from 3 to 8 days. Their muscles will hurt, their bones will hurt, and if they have a very severe heroin addiction, they're not going to be able to get out of bed for a couple days. And when they're that sick, at that point, they're not getting high to get high anymore. They're getting high to take the physical symptoms away. Eventually, most of them who are snorting heroin and show those kinds of signs and symptoms will move on to injecting heroin intravenously into the vein, because they'll find that it's a quicker high. Again, heroin is connected with violence. When you are feeling very, very ill and in physical withdrawal, you are in an irritable, agitated state, and you will become argumentative to the point of exploding on people when they get in your way. Next drug I'm going to talk about is phencyclidine. The adolescents will talk about smoking embalming fluid or formaldehyde. They sometimes will talk about black dust or dust. PCP comes in liquid and oil, and what they do is they put it on mint leaves. They freeze the mint leaves. It comes out black. They sell it in little bottles, sometimes like this, or sometimes they will sell it in envelopes like this. Now, if they sell it in an envelope like that, they typically put it in a blue wax bag or a white wax bag that they then will put into this envelope. Sell it like that. Sometimes on marijuana, it's called Love Boat, or Lovely. Or if you get somebody who's a PCP dealer, they will have the actual liquid or oil, they call it, and you can give them a filter cigarette. They will dip it into the PCP, hand you back the cigarette. You draw on the filter, all the PCP will cover the entire cigarette. They take the filter out of the cigarette, and then they pass around and smoke it like a marijuana cigarette or joint. PCP, typically, it's a dissociative anesthetic, which means that it numbs them out and it dissociates them, where they have oftentimes an out-of-body experience. It's a euphoric drug, so typically what they want is they end up looking like this. Where they're feeling peaceful, calm, no anxieties, no worries. Unfortunately, this drug can make you chill you out, make you relax, or it can speed you up. And unfortunately, it makes people feel emotionally invincible and physically invincible. And sometimes they just get out of control, and they are much more physically strong and feel they cannot be hurt. So this drug is a drug that's connected with violence. This drug also makes people delusional and hallucinate, see things that aren't there, and believe things that is not reality. This drug is one of the drugs that shows a high incidence or frequency of amnesia, or what's called blackouts, where the person who smokes this drug will be up and moving about. However, the next day, if you say, how did you like the conversation we had? They said, what conversation? They said, I didn't see you yesterday. So they don't pass out. It's blacking out. They don't remember things. It's amnesia. Now, alcohol, especially alcohol in combination with pills, benzodiazepine pills, which are anxiety reducers, muscle relaxers, those two drugs also make you black out. And society has a belief that alcohol is the #1 drug for blackout. Well, I happen to believe that PCP is the #1 drug for blackout, because it can happen very, very early in the use. Then another sign and symptom of PCP is when they smoke it for about the first half an hour, it makes them salivate, so they end up spitting a lot. They also sometimes walk and talk much slower. It retards locomotor activity. Powder drugs that you inhale or snort are cocaine, powder heroin, powder methamphetamine that adolescents on the street will call crank or crystal meth or speed or monster. Powder cocaine they will call coke, cane, blow. Some places they'll call it nose candy. The names vary. Now the other thing that some adolescents do is they take Ritalin pills, which are for attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity, and they crush the pill down into powder and then they snort it. Typically what they do is they'll take anything that you can buy in powder or make into powder and put it on a piece of mirror or a piece of glass or a piece of marble. What they're using is any surface that is non-porous. You take a mirror, put the powdered drug on the mirror, take a razor, chop it up, loosen up the powdered drug, make a line about that long, 1/16 of an inch thick. You would take a drug straw, or you could take a soda or pop straw, put it to the end of the line, isolate a nostril, snort it up. Now, the signs and symptoms that you'll see when people inhale or snort drugs is they will have a runny nose. The runny nose will turn into a chronic runny nose. Sometimes after they inhale drugs for a period of time afterwards, they'll go like this. Sometimes when they inhale a lot of powder drugs over a period of time, they will have a bleeding nose. And sometimes the bleeding noses turn into chronic bleeding noses. Sometimes they will get a perforated septum. The cartilage here, the drug destroys the mucous membrane, and the cartilage inside the nose turns black, and they drill a hole in the cartilage, and in essence they have one nostril. You can get that from snorting any powder drug, but the powder drug that does that the quickest is powder cocaine, because it's an anesthetic and a vascular constrictor. So it stops the blood flow to the nasal passages, particularly the cartilage. The difference between powder cocaine and crack cocaine is this. Crack is one of the most addictive drugs there is, or I guess a better way of putting it, the rapidity of the addiction is very, very quick, because the drug goes almost right into the lungs, gets absorbed through the mucous membranes of the lungs, and goes right to the brain. A typical smoking of crack person will be high in anywhere from 4 to 6 seconds. It's a little bit quicker than injecting a drug into your vein. And when the drug ingestion is that quick and you're getting a large dose of cocaine to the brain that goes right to the reward center of the brain, the middle of the brain, the limbic system, the addiction to crack is very, 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 very quick. I think all drugs have the potential to lead a person into violence, especially if the person has a problem with anger, frustration. And I think particularly you'll see violence with adolescents. There are some drugs that are more connected with violence than others, like alcohol, PCP, heroin, but marijuana, and again, society thinks marijuana is a benign drug. Marijuana can be connected with violence. When the person doesn't have the drug and they depend on the drug to cope, that's habituation or addiction. And if they don't have the drug, then you have somebody that doesn't know how to cope. You have somebody who's emotionally unstable. And when they're emotionally unstable, they're very prone to violence, whether it's an adolescent or an adult. So I think all substances will do that.
You I'ma kick it like this, so son, stop the violence. All that drug dealing, the killing we gotta put behind us. I've lost too many friends in this game. It ain't the same as it was when I was younger, just trying to maintain. And I've been there, so I ain't knocking your hustle. We just some young kids here caught up in the struggle. When you can change, believe me, instead of going ballistic. Cause if you don't change, you're gonna end up statistic. So here's some advice, take it up to your head. It's like a game of life. Do you wanna live or be dead? And it's your choice, God. I know the streets is hard, cause it's the other brother always trying to pull your car. You need to dead that word up. Nowadays you get hurt up. It used to be by fist, but now they bring it burners. Hey, yo, times get rough, kid. At 16, I did enough biz. I'm trying to change it. Street life, son, I claimed it. Cats to test you, pull out and try to bless you with 5 shots, putting mad holes right through your chest too. Trying to show love, not guns, to my nephew. He's 2 years old. He about to turn 3. 3 years of his life, he never spent one with me. I'm trying to make that time up. That's why I made this rhyme up. Trying to get down for these kids before their time's up. It's running now. Old heads is gunning down, acting crazy. I had bullets that almost blazed me in my head. Some cats, they want me dead or in the jails. I got knocked when I was 12, but kept my head up. Street life, it got me fed up. Trying to make me fall, but yo, I always get up without thinking. Check the favor that I'm speaking. Cats nowadays eating kids and leaving blinking. Check the story. The holding guns ain't nothing for me. The street life before the stuff was mandatory, but now it's gone. My rhymes, they be the bomb. I rip mics up and blow kisses to my mom. Word is born. I'm that boy that puts you on. Live life right for your life before you're gone. You're gone.